mean, it sounds dramatic, but being able to watch documentaries and people's blog posts online, video blogs, etc. It's an amazing way of getting information, and it's taking the power out of people like CNN's hands. And when we take the eyeballs, like Timothy Leary was saying, the eyeballs away from CNN, then you're sort of what people believe sort of creates the texture of the reality. So if people are no longer looking at CNN to create the texture of their reality, but looking at, individually tailored works of art by friends on blogs or who knows, whatever you're into, then you're starting to inform your own reality and not this fear machine-like crazy juggernaut of death that they're representing on CNN. Because I think that's sort of one of the points, that why they keep generating these fear things like 9/11 is to keep you looking at CNN and to keep you thinking about, the consensus reality trance, because then they have your eyeballs and they can make you create this mundane reality that they want you to be enslaved in. They want you to think, it's a good idea to wake up and go turn widgets at the factory when it's laughable. You have this infinite universe at your disposal, but you have to believe in this, mundane existence. It's just crap. That's nonsense. Sure. I think we're starting to wake up, or at least some of us are.
Absolutely, yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I'm thinking back on this comment in the movie V for Vendetta when the main big brother up on the screen there tells his ministers basically that we need to remind the people why they need us, and that's kind of the idea I think you were expressing here, that we, with fear and with threats basically, they are trying to keep, as you say, the eyes peeled on them and focused on them, and we're going to turn to them again for security or for the sense of being informed. But do you see it as a possibility that let's say that more and more people are turning away from the mainstream media in that sense, but still many people return to it in regards to that we still report on things that pop up in the mainstream media, and we have the all the reporters out there, and I've heard things being expressed that if people don't buy the newspapers or whatever, subscribe to the news channels or whatnot, that these will actually go out of business in that sense, and then we have a collapse of the information network in that sense. Or do you think that people are going to be the reporters in the future?
Yeah. I think the individual nodes, in a sense, which are the which constitutes us, the individual intelligent nodes of this hive mind that is evolving, we're going to become smart enough, intelligent enough, and connected enough to spread the information without a centralized source like CNN, which is obviously and completely hopelessly corrupt and subverted with interests that are so far beyond the common man that it just it's laughable. We are going to become a network amongst ourselves. It's already, in a very big sense, it is that way. Any relevant information that's very specifically relevant to me, I will find out in like 10 minutes. If my mother dies on the other side of the planet, I will know within 10 minutes. Somebody will SMS somebody, who will email somebody, who will fax somebody, or whatever they will use. I will find out very soon. Sure. When Robert Anton Wilson died, I was in South Africa. I wasn't on the internet, and 2 people text messaged me within 10 minutes of each other, like from different parts of the world, about it, because they specifically knew that it was relevant to me, because they know I have a big respect for the individual. So our networks are becoming our news source. And yes, we are still going to need people to have cameras overseas and an infrastructure to do that. But it's becoming that an individual with a cell phone who you trust at the scene can become, and your network of trust will be your news service. You know your friend, so you trust what he sends you. instead of somebody like Rupert Murdoch, who you've never met and who's just rich and greedy and wants to, I don't know, do some evil stuff, it seems.
So, I mean, do you think that this is the little brother in in regards to it being Big Brother before?
Yeah, we're evolving a network, a new higher organization that it's not visible yet. So people think like it's chaos. It's something which I've heard on your show come up numerous times in different contexts. It's like the water is boiling. The entire planet is like frothing with all this energy, and it looks like chaos, but it's actually a higher organizational matrix that's evolving, and it will come out of this chaotic period, something which will allow us to be able to cope with this new level of information spreading all over everything, and this interaction that we're having. The ability to talk to you in Sweden, like on Skype, is it's amazing.
Yeah,
the technology.
It is.
We're evolving the techniques and the what we need to be able to navigate it successfully without going crazy. Because if we don't, as a planet, we do have the scary situation of blowing ourselves up, because all these belief systems are now being thrown together on the internet into one melting pot. And the fear of realizing all the lies about your culture and your perceived identity could make you just sort of hit the abort button, and which I would see as just a metaphor for nuclear holocaust on the planet.
Yeah.
And but I don't think that'll happen. I think that's just another fear that we'll overcome.
Yeah, sure. One thing that comes to mind is the classical biblical expression of the apocalypse, which I understand basically means the unveiling, and this is, I guess, what you are talking about in regards to all the information that is coming available. You spoke about YouTube and Wikipedia and all this. That this is a time of where everything, all the secrets and so forth, are coming to the surface, or the information availability of the information at least is coming to the surface, and all we have to do in order to find something is to have a curious mind and having the will to actually do a little bit of searching, and you'll have the answers basically, at least in much shorter time now than we have any in any time previously in at least modern history. So
yeah, definitely.
So do you think that this is the biblical apocalypse?
In a sense, it is. It's like I bet you there are a lot of people out there with a heavy religious belief system who could look at the world around them and maybe in a way see an apocalypse.
Yeah.
Taking the relevant information and going, yeah, this is the apocalypse. And another person would look at it and go, wow, this is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. Look at it.
Sure.
It's beautiful.
Sure, absolutely.
I think you'll see whatever you're looking for at this period as we head up towards, I suppose, I don't necessarily believe in 2012, but I do feel like it's a way of explaining a certain idea about the coming eschaton, or the point where we all transcend, or the internet becomes aware and all our thoughts are suddenly lit up in the supernova. I change about that kind of thing every day. How I feel it.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I see it as I guess singularity basically, and I think that mirrors the idea that you talked about earlier, that it seems to be impossible to kind of imagine yourself beyond a certain point into the future, which very well might be, at 2012 in that sense, because after that point things takes off in a myriad of different directions basically, and this is one of the ideas that I think that Carl Johan Kellerman, that I talked about earlier, actually expressed in his books in regards to consciousness and awareness, actually basically, giving a second birth, basically, and I guess that this is the singularity that many people, and including, transhumanists and so forth, actually are talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think that is, you mentioned, of course, again, that 2012, but do you think that is, do you think that it's important at all to view this in a linear timetable, so to speak, in regards to focusing on 2012?
Well, I think what's happening with 2012, or my current belief system about 2012, is that we've been played a trick by some master Zen game players like Terence McKenna, who was one of the big pushers of 2012.
Yeah.
Sort of projected into the future a date and made it this huge thing, and now we're all focusing our energy on it, and we very well might make it happen just because what we believe shapes the texture of our reality. So if we're all focusing on 2012, it could literally become something, because if everybody's expecting something to happen at 2012, something will probably happen.
Yeah.
And to me, I mean, even if nothing happens on 2012, that would be one of the most fascinating things ever. It would be like one of the least likely thing to happen would be nothing, and that would fascinate me even more. So
yeah.
I can't personally lose in it, but I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah. I spoke about Terence McKenna, of course. You and you went into that a little bit in one of your recent articles in regards to time wave zero. Would you like to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Well, yeah, the time wave, which is sort of it's a complex thing to explain, but I mean, Terence McKenna literally took mushrooms and then spoke to aliens, and they told him, he has other metaphors for this, obviously, but told him to look into the I Ching, and he found this pattern in a mathematical theorem which ended up playing itself. He mapped the entire evolution of the history of the universe and found that the end date came up to 2012, the same as the Mayans, and the next peak, the biggest peak in habit, which is when there's lots of disorder on the planet, is this year. So it's possible, if Terence McKenna's theory was correct, that this year could be a very traumatic year in the movement down to 2012. But it's just a metaphor, and I don't think one should sit and hope for horrible things to happen or big disastrous events. But it seems implied by his theory, at least, that this year should be a very exciting year when it comes to events happening on the planet.
Any ideas?
Well, I mean, we just recently, I don't like to speculate on future events, but we just recently saw, again, this Iran thing come up with these British soldiers being captured there, and if they're looking for an inn, that could definitely be it. This scenario could definitely turn out to be another war, which could escalate into something. But I hope that won't happen. Really, I don't like that.
I just put up on my website in regards to an article that we were sent from Webster Tarpley. Don't know if you've seen this yet, but this is something called Operation Bite, and this is actually he elaborates on Russian military sources that actually warn that the U.S. will planning a sneak attack on Iran April 6th already this year. Yeah,
I read the headline on your website just a few minutes ago. Yeah.
Sure. So I mean, again, I don't know. We've been handed these kinds of reports since going back to 2 years, basically. I mean, ever since the time of Scott Ritter talking about, a possible invasion of Iran and so forth. But what makes this more interesting is actually, I think, in regards to the recent events with the British Marines that have been captured.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
There's another thing to keep your eyes on. Like in 1984, George Orwell explains this sort of constant state of being at war with nobody. How you can make it seem like there's always an enemy, and you can change it from SARS to bird flu